The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hey, good morning.
City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And here we are on a Wednesday. And we've got a lot to talk about, but I got to start very quickly touching upon the State of the Union address yesterday. It really made me feel great toward the end of that speech when the President of the United States reminded the people that we don't always have to agree. He actually encouraged opposing opinions. He said, in order to have a good government, we need to argue vigorously. We need to disagree. We need to have a thesis and antithesis and then come out with a synthesis. But we can do that without condemning the other party. We can understand that people have different views. But he encouraged it. He reminded us that this government was created in an atmosphere of discourse, and there were people that were being called traitors, and they wanted to hang them and everything else. So it was great to see that during the State of the Union, whether you agreed or disagreed with his presentation or the Republican presentation, that the President of the United States took the time to say that it's not negative to disagree. What's negative is when you call people names, when you disparage their religion or them personally. But to disagree on the way the government is being run is what makes America great. So I just had to say that because I felt so good, because now all the people that call us negative all the time, just because we point out that we have a differing opinion, well, I guess you don't like the president either, or our form of government. So
hey, I guess the president's not negative. But hey, today we've got a guest commentator, and right now I'd like to welcome Michael DeOliveira from Necessary Media to the show. Hey, welcome, Mike. It's great to see you. It's been a while.
It has, but first, I'd like to say I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. I tune into the show often. Usually I can't catch the live show, but I'm always catching on YouTube. You guys upload every day after the show,
Every
right?
day after the show.
Yeah, so I catch it on. So I've been keeping up with you guys, and the show's been going good. I know the city's definitely been given a lot of topics for you guys to cover.
Sometimes we don't have enough time. We need an hour-long show on Sundays.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing it 3 times a week now, so I'm sure you got material for all week, and let's keep the people busy listening. They got enough out there, so hopefully they can actually catch it in the ear though, and it doesn't just go out the other.
Yeah, well, we saw yesterday. I'm going to use that term that many people think that I came up with, but it actually comes from the Herald News. The boy emperor is licking his wounds today. It's amazing. But the city council also didn't have any cojones in this situation. They allowed the mayor to walk away kind of with his head held high still, because they preserved his face. They let him save face with this leave to withdraw. 3 city councilors voted against the leave to withdraw. I don't know if they voted to support this position or if they voted to, they were just saying, hey, let's just shoot it down. Because you know what? If they had a set of cojones on them, they would have all, if they didn't want it, the 6 of them would have said no, 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 and the position would have been shot down.
Well, I thought the story is they actually were supposedly on board with this.
Well, that's what the mayor said on the radio. He said that he met with, and he made it clear, and I loved it when he did this. He says, I've met with every city councilor 3 at a time to not violate, the open meeting law, which I thought was amazing, because they forget that deliberation by proxy is still a violation. But he thought he had the votes in line for this position. Now, here's the kicker. Before his inauguration, I met with some of his staffers, and they said, we don't have to worry about the city council because they're all in support of the mayor's initiative. Wake up, boy emperor. I guess you finally realize that politics is a dirty business. And just because they say I support you, they might be supporting you with a stick up your backside.
Well, you got to remember about public perception. Remember, I kind of we kind of went over that position on our show, and then a few hours later, the Herald News came out with an editorial which basically echoed what we said. And I think that the city council paid attention, because as I continue to say on the show, they can say what they want, and it's not a perfect system. It's going to be trial and error until we get the people in there who do what we want them to do. But the fact is, the people in Fall River are paying attention. People, we've changed mayors, we changed councils, and we have to continue to do that. But the reality is, as we said, this position, we are not in the business of drug intervention. There are agencies on the state and local and federal levels that are experts in that. And what's the next thing we're going to do? Is the mayor going to open up a used car lot because people in Fall River can't afford cars, so we're going to open up a car lot for them too? I mean, there are certain fundamental essential services that we have to provide, and this city's in big trouble. We don't need $65,000 plus all the money he makes on the grants, which will be substantial, for a position that is redundant at best and useless at worst.
Now, was any of this actually discussed beforehand? Because I know throughout the debates, the opiate crisis was, constantly brought up as it's the epidemic going across the state and different parts of the country, and it was emphasized plenty of times during the debate and thereafter. Everybody's made full aware that it's an issue, but he always said he wanted to address it, he was going to address it, and then, but he never released, I don't believe, a plan. And then the plan that comes out is to just
give a friend a job.
Yeah, that's the plan. So, I mean, off the bat, I'll be completely honest. On one hand, I want to say, it's an honest effort. At least it's an effort. The way it's going about, it's one of those things that are going to rub people the wrong way when they see it's another contract, and then it's one of those deals where if you're one of the members of the public who are maybe a little paying attention, you'll catch that. Like I know, CJ, you could elaborate on this better. The situation where it was called a percentage out of the grant. All right, but one way or another, like what was brought up at the council meeting, I believe by Trot Joseph Lee, he was one of the citizens' input, the first one maybe. But he brought up the fact that eventually, after this goes through a grant process, I mean, you'll look into, this is going to be in the budget period for the city after the grant situation runs out or plays its course, as it's always done per history before. So this is nothing new. So, it's going to catch people the wrong way. So we'll see now how this goes.
This comes from the Flanagan School of give all your kiss asses a job, okay? And let's create them in ordinance, which means they're there forever. Now, understand something about grants, and I spoke about this in my commentary about this whole thing last night. It got published late, but it was written last night, in regards to the fact that grants are written with what we call an administrative cost section. That administrative cost is fixed. It doesn't change. It doesn't go 15%, 20%, 30%. It's fixed. Mm-hmm. So if the grant has a $10,000 administrative cost section, that's to pay for bookkeeping, record keeping, reporting, that's all put in there. That's the fixed amount. Now, if the city chooses to keep 50% of it and then give 50% to an outside contracted company, that's the city's choice, because they know they can't provide the services required in the grant. Now, this position wasn't to provide the services. It was to keep the grants in-house. All right, so we keep the grants in-house, but we still have to provide the services. So now what do we have to do? Contract out anyhow? So the mayor used on the air the statement that the city keeps 15% and then the outside agency that's contracted gets 16.6. Well, if I'm using that math, and again, I'm not a mathematician and I'm not Einstein, 15 plus 16 is 31.6. So tell me where the other 68.4% of that administrative cost is going. And if we look back at the days of Perry Long under Will Flanagan, the mayor supported Flanagan through his first year in the city council. It wasn't until the recall took its position. As a matter of fact, the mayor actually almost gave the acceptance speech of winning the election. we look at the Perry Long situation, and Perry Long got a job in CDA at the mayor's request, and he took a percentage of the administrative fees in the grants. So he took, whether it be 25%, 20%, and if you remember correctly, that cranked up his salary, okay, to $80,000, $90,000 a year. So this is what will happen here with this position. Now, I had a conversation with one of our colleagues, Dan Robelab, late last night, and we were speaking about this, and we both said the same thing. This position is going to happen, whether it be by ordinance or by at will. And if this position does get created after the people have already spoken, after the city council has said no, you will confirm to everyone that you are indeed not looking out for what the people want, you are looking out for what you want, and that's to give your friends a job and to make sure that your political butt kissers are taken care of. And that's what we voted out of office.
Well,
we don't want that.
This is where we get back to Goebbels. You tell a lie, a big enough lie, long enough, people begin to believe it. Mike was correct, pointing out the fact that these grants create programs which then, when the grant runs out, are still there, and we're going to have to sustain it. But that's the con. You see, we get off on a percentage, how much he makes. But let's get back to the bottom line. Should the city be in the business of drug intervention?
That's where I think, though, I guess I'll try to play devil's advocate or whatever, but that's where I think the space gets gray, because there was so much talk, and there is so much talk, and it's justified about the opiate crisis and what's going on. So it becomes an issue of how are we actually going to handle this. But that's why I tried to mention what was actually discussed leading up through the debates, and then now that he was elected, and then going through the inaugural process, what actually was discussed as a plan. Because there's other options out there that I don't know what ones you guys might like or the citizens might like and could vote on. But I mean, we have the classic case that was trying to be publicized a lot, was the situation out in Gloucester, how they approach it. I guess what Mayor Correa is trying to do now is they mentioned going off of what New Bedford does. I guess this is something similar to them. I haven't looked into that yet, but that's what this whole shtick is about.
Yeah, very appropriate word, shtick.
I love shtick.
Yeah.
Everybody loves shtick.
Because it's a very appropriate word. Because, as I said before, listen, let's put things in perspective. We have just been found not the second poorest city in the state, but the poorest city in the state. People can't get $10.
I didn't get my trophy.
People can't get $10 an hour minimum wage jobs. What is this city in the business of? This is a no-frills, blue-collar city. We need to rebuild this city, and you do it by having a government that is just providing the necessary services first. We always complain about lack of public safety, education's an issue, and we're going to get into the drug intervention business. Well, I don't think, even under the best circumstances, a city, because government, as Milton Friedman says, if you give them the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand in 5 years. Government has never done anything. Well, all we have to do is look at the opiate problem in the United States. It's gotten worse. We are dumping millions and millions and millions of dollars on all levels of government, and the experts, pseudo-experts or experts, however you want to term them, like it started, have been there forever, have not gotten a handle on this problem. So, we're gonna talk this and create more positions and more patronage jobs and spend more of the taxpayers' money. That's not the business of Fall River, in my opinion. My opinion is very simple. We should be prioritizing public safety and necessary services to the public, and we should never be in my personal opinion. We should never be in a drug intervention business, and everybody's making a big deal out of this, the problem we have. And the problem we have is that we don't have the proper punishment, because if you look at countries that produce most of these drugs, they don't have anywhere near the problem we do. Because if you get caught with drugs in Turkey or Thailand, you're not going to be dealing drugs any longer, because you're going to either be dead or in jail. And the problem is they can say all they want, that these things, that they're not a deterrent. This system is created, and whether they like it or not, my opinion is this is like the military-industrial complex. One of the biggest ticket items for everybody to make money is addiction. You look at the hospitals, the treatment centers, all the associated businesses. This is a $1 trillion business. And it's just like everything else in this country. They really don't want to fix it.
Well, I think you just cued in on something that it can connect to a lot of things, which I love, is how you highlighted the fact that, I mean, some of the other things you mentioned that I think we could have a good conversation about, but what you just highlighted is how once you make something a medical issue, it's now all of a sudden like deemed to be handed down from God. Like no one can question this. Once the government or whatever powers that be decide to categorize something as a medical issue, hey, that's it. You can't say anything no more. And worse than that, depending on the severity, what level of medical issue they decide to categorize this at, you could end up pulled out of your house as just clinically insane because medically you're determined to be. It becomes a game. And what they do though, to roll off what you said, is becomes an economic boom off of it, because once you made it a medical issue, now comes medical, the government now steps in with government-approved medications, government-approved ways of coping with these medical issues, and it's just, money for everybody except the actual citizens.
Yeah, but
That's true.
The thing is, if you want to address the drug problem in Fall River, let's look at communities that have a substantially decreased drug issue problem across the Commonwealth and across the country. Those communities have what I call, or what we call in corrections, because I did work in corrections, yes, people, I did, a show of force. Now, if you go to East Providence, and this is pivotal, you get pulled over in East Providence. You think, oh, I got pulled over, I ran a stop sign. Okay, you get one police officer who shows up, right? No, you get 5 cruisers. 5. It's a show of force. That show of force is the distraction. And it says to the people that come to East Providence, you come to our community to create a problem. We're going to be here and we're going to stop you. Okay? It's an appearance. Now, in Fall River, what we do is we get into a car accident, we call, file the report online. My house has been broken into. Call, file the report online. That isn't deterrence. That is a door for criminal activity, for drug dealing to happen.
That's not streamlined?
Yeah, no, that's not streamlining government, believe me.
No.
And the thing is that we have to be able to address this. And a show of force right now is what Fall River needs. Every time a police officer responds to a car accident, to a car stop, to anything else, I would rather have 5 police officers answer that car stop, okay, for the potential for injury to the officer or for the potential of possibly stopping another crime.
Yeah, but
for
they can't
no
do
other
that,
purpose.
CJ.
Right, because we don't have the men.
And they're going to be doing their secondary visit for all their drug busts.
Exactly.
Because now they're going to be drug interventionists rather than police officers. and as Mike said, look, as I said, the military-industrial complex. Dwight Eisenhower, when he was the president of the United States at its beginning, said the prophetic words, beware of the military-industrial complex. And if you look at what's happened, it's become a part of the fabric of this nation. We can't get rid of it, because then the country's economy would collapse without building planes and all the aircraft plants and the shipbuilding plants and all the plants and now you look at what else we did. So we do the same thing. Then we moved the drug problem into that. First, the police departments began to get the forfeitures, all kinds of grants to fight drugs, and now that began to have a life of its own. And if they eliminated drugs, there go half the grants, there go half the crime. Because if you looked at the HBO special at the Cape, Heroin on the Cape.
Yeah.
Now, that's a fairly affluent in comparison to Fall River. It showed the total futility of this, because I think 3 out of the 6 people they highlighted died ultimately at the end of that program.
Right.
And they had every advantage. They had parental support. They had money. They had people. They went to rehab numerous times. It shows how difficult the problem is. not an issue that cities should get into. There's enough resources, and as Mike said, once you make it a medical issue, it's like you're like the leprechaun that just found a pot of gold. It's like, oh man, can we clean up now? It's like we can send them to rehabs for $3,000.
They got me Lucky Charms.
We got the Lucky Charms.
Well, I know you keep mentioning how the military-industrial complex, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think where you're leading to this, or at least what I would jump into this as part of with the drug issue and every other crime issue, is we also have the prison industrial complex. They make money off this stuff, people. So the problem is, how many times, and I know there's so many things we could talk about, but how many times do you see where these judges have now been getting, for lack of a better word, investigated, or there's other things you put in it, but it's coming out information where there's certain people they've kind of pushed into the system on purpose because it's a paycheck. It's like every other, this connects to everything. This connects to the school departments. This connects to the, like you were just saying, the medical situations, the military. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because if you look at you're right about the prisons, because one of the things the United States, there are very few things we're number one in anymore. But we have the most people incarcerated in the world. You're right, Mike. I mean, because the statistics speak for themselves. I saw once that they said that the three things the United States lead in is when a number one arms dealer in the world. Okay, and we talk about gun control, but we sell arms to everybody, directly and indirectly. If you ever saw that movie with Nicolas Cage, that was a great, based on a true story. Okay, number one in arms. Number one in the people who believe in angels, and number one in the number of people incarcerated. So you're right, and that's one of the problems with government. When they find a way to stick government into anything that can generate money, it'll never end. Just like they wanted to put this job in ordinance, they want a perpetual trough, and when they see that, they see this giant big blank checkbook in front of them. That's why, as I said, Fall River, and as far as I'm concerned, every city should be in the business of providing only necessary and essential services, no frills government. We should not be doing things that other people can do, and that's what a city is, because we are the city. And I know I pay my taxes to have police officers, firefighters, an educational system, my trash picked up, and those are my necessities. Just like I have to pay my gas and my light bill and the electric bill. If I want to go out and buy a car, I have to save extra money. I'm not paying my taxes for extras. I'm paying my taxes for essentials, and that's the lowest thing on a totem pole in the city of Fall River. And we don't need a brand new mayor. And I understand. Look, I understand that Jazel's been involved in this issue since he was 13 years old. And I sympathize, and like I said, I understand what a difficult problem it is. But we have other experts, we have other resources. This is not something we should be in. This whole thing is an example of misdirected priorities.
Well, let me give you. I spoke to you a little bit about this last night, but let me give you a quick story. Yesterday, I was out in a local supermarket, and somebody called me up in regards to this position, and we started to get into a very heated argument over my cell phone. And I put it on speaker as I was walking through the market, and I finally got to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore, and I started letting out some very loud explicitives. Okay, what the F are you doing? Blah blah blah. I mean, frustration just took over. And I started to get a crowd of people around me in the produce section listening to this. And they were actually chiming in, saying, that's right, we don't need this position. We need police, we need fire. We don't need a drug person. We need police and fire. This is where the public wants their money spent. Okay? And the person on the other end of the phone finally said, look, I can't discuss this with you because you're obviously not going to change your position. No, I'm not. My personal opinion is, because I've been the victim of the attacks, I've witnessed police officers and firefighters and EMS personnel and emergency room personnel who've been the victims of attack. I don't think our police and fire should carry Narcan. Let EMS carry it. If they choose to overdose, that's their choice. If they get the help and they survive, that's the luck of the draw. It's Darwinism, okay? And many people get upset. But let me tell you something. You go back to those people a year later, okay, who and you talk to them about the loss of their loved one, their child, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whatever, they will turn around and tell you, I still miss them, and it hurts me that they died the way they did, but I'm glad the pain is over. And you ask them what pain. They don't say their pain, you know, the person who died, they say their own pain, because they're the ones that go through all the pain. And the victim of the overdose or the drug addict, they never went through any pain because they killed it. This is a choice. This is a choice, and it is not the responsibility of the taxpayer to fund it any further than it already is by the federal and state government. We run a detox system which is a joke. It is a joke. A great majority of the people that go into these systems, such as being sentenced to STAR by the courts, they go in at the end of their money availability so that their withdrawal, their need for the drug can be managed with medications in a controlled environment until their check comes in. And normally they schedule it just right so that at the end of the period, they're getting out when the check's coming out. But if the check comes out while they're still in, they'll sign themselves out because we can't lock them in there. This is the system we have. And this is a system that doesn't work. Other states actually require them to pay substantial money for detox. So if they're going to pay for it, maybe they would be more willing to work with the people and work with the communities.
I think one of the biggest issues, you know, during this whole conversation just now, and while I have a chance to think in the middle of whatever space, what pops into my head is I think honestly one of the fundamental issues at the root of this that's going to cause all this existential problems to come out of it is we're trying to have the government take care of problems that, you know, everybody can have their own view on it, but my personal view is if somebody's going to go down that road, they obviously have problems going on, whether it's of their own doing or someone else's doing, and they were, you know, because you can have a child raised in a home where they had no choice and the home's a mess. But the problem is we're then trying to rely on the government to fix this, as opposed, in other words, like CJ, that whole frustration that just came out of you is simply because it's the government telling you to do something, as opposed to if this just stayed at like a human nature type thing, you know, humanity, and people just helped people, this might be a little different. And I know that's, you know, I'm not talking about pie in the sky, you know, or a Nirvana thing. I'm just saying literally, like, there's plenty of things that are going on in the city even now that people have taken their own initiative to just start and handle it, as opposed to saying, well, maybe we should find a grant. Maybe the government could organize something. No, if people really, and I agree, there's problems with that whole opiate situation. I have known at least 3 friends of mine growing up who 2 of them have died from an overdose. They weren't really good friends, but they were friends. And one of them, a really good friend of mine, had a situation where he had overdose, but he got through it. So my point is, I've seen this, and I've seen plenty of people who maybe could have come close to that lifestyle. But it's up to the people around them to really try to step in and help, because let's just say for that individual, for you to go down that road, there's something going on, or something, you know, hurting or missing, whatever, or your life views in a certain direction. Family, friends, that's what's going to get somebody out of that. You're not going to have the government step in and you know, fix this.
Well, the problem we have is very simple, okay? And as Mike said, this is a social problem, and the government is not a social agency. The government is supposed to be what the President of the United States reminded us. It's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And what happened to you in the market is what the problem is. The government is not listening to the people. The people said we want firefighters and police officers and trash pickup. We don't want this job. That's the bottom line. Listen to the people. The people will tell you what they want, because we're the government, and stay angry.
Thanks. Hey, Mike, thanks for visiting us.
Thanks a lot,
Always
guys.
a pleasure, Mike. Nice
We'll
having
see you guys on Friday. Thank you.
That was quick. That was quick. I get used to like a 2-hour